Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your SpaLife show. SpaLife is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. I am so thrilled to share with you our special guest, Reverend Dr. Rachel Wetzsteon. She loves to speak about the human energy field, healing, the body, spirituality, and what all of this has to do with radiant growth. Dr. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Diane. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, this is so great. I love this because I want to jump right into radiant growth because this completely, connects with your book about, radiantly free, recreating the life of health form from the Radiance of You. I'd love for you just to start with, how that book come about and tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so it was, a inner journey where it came from. It started as I had gone through my life, started my career. I was in research and became a mom, had 2 kids, cute dog, a nice husband. I was like, why am I not waking up joyful in the morning? And, I day after day, I was like, geez, I've got this privilege. I was doing some things, able to work from home, but then also being a mom. But I was like, how come I'm just like trying to get through the day? When the day is done, I'm like calling my husband, you're going to be home at 4:30, right? Like it just, and then, I was very passionate about reading to my children every night, but I was like, thinking, are we done yet?
Right. Well, and I was just going to say from the outside world, I mean, for people that don't know, I mean, Rachel holds, a doctoral degree in exercise physiology from the University of Minnesota, extensive experience in research, group fitness classes for 20 years. I mean, ordained as a minister. I mean, you have all the quote credentials that some people would say, hey, it's all together, right?
Yeah.
But to look at that and still have this experience, tell us more about that.
Yeah. And at that time, I wasn't a minister yet. That kind of grew through my spiritual journey, but it was almost like this window or path opened up where things started coming my way, like learning the power of the mind and starting to consciously change what I was thinking and doing with my mind and coming to the present moment, and then starting a meditation practice. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, this path of learning about energy healing and starting to do my own inner healing and making that a part of my lifestyle. And so that just kind of transformed. And one morning I was just getting ready for the day, doing my makeup, and I had a vision that I was doing a book signing. And I was like, whoa, what? And at that time I was kind of aware of all these new things. My background was in diet, exercise, medicine. And now I was awakening to like the emotions, the mind, our energy, all of that. And I became very passionate about that aspect of ourselves that's largely ignored in our society. And I knew I would write a book at some point. And then it wasn't until I was at an eWomen Platinum event when I committed to Sandra Yancey. I said I would write my book in 30 days, and poof. That was like another thing where like everything opened up, the time and space was there to just get it done, and it flowed.
How was that transition for you from going almost from a very kind of cerebral, steady kind of work and doing to, a very emotional inner journey?
Well, it was interesting because I realized, especially in writing, doing a doctoral dissertation and writing research papers and publishing those, it's so logical, and finding the information and putting it together and telling a story that way. It was I guess, very fun and light awakening to be able to write just from my soul and tell my story and kind of flow instead of force,
Right. Absolutely. I love that. And so, this part of this whole flow versus force, we talk about in SpaLife about designing your life versus living by default. And I know that there's some ways where you really intentionally choose aspects of your life. Can you expand a little bit about that?
Yeah. One of the things is just knowing that a life by design is possible. I think so many of us go through like things just are happening to us. My husband did this, my kids did that, my boss, and becoming aware that we are just these conscious co-creators of our life, and we can put more positive things out there or start telling ourselves a new story. And that's really what I started doing, was becoming a co-creator instead of a victim. And that was really powerful for me. And then I also am really passionate about living a life of healing, inner healing, and always being aware of that. So practicing meditation, doing those things like going to alternative healers, and maybe alternative isn't the right word anymore. It's some say complementary, but for me, it's a holistic approach to wellness and living, to go see an acupuncturist, go get regular chiropractic. Always checking in with my mind and my emotions and how I'm feeling. And then, trusting my body and intuition instead of like trying to should myself into everything, dumping all those shoulds. And really, a big transformation was from forcing my body to listening and realizing that rest was as valuable as movement.
I hear you, sister. That self-care is such a huge part. I've talked about this quite a bit, and sometimes that gets pushed aside in the busyness of life that people have come up for them. So I always love to hear that part of it. And how is it that you're utilizing this inner healing you talk about having this to be more on purpose and kind of living your greater purpose? How are you utilizing that inner healing to move in the direction of that?
To move in the direction of my purpose more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of it is really what I mentioned with being able to like clear my own energy field. So we all our energy, and research has measured our energy to like 15 feet beyond our body. And yet a lot of the saints and sages and stuff say we are infinite, like our body, our energy is infinite. And might freak people out to be like, we're also infinitely in, like the dimension or the multidimensional nature of our being is so expansive and intricate. It's just, if we get into real peaceful meditative prayer states, we can access that and feel it. But most of us don't live our lives that way. But so for me to live on purpose was really about clearing out all my junk or like dense energies in my energy field, to be as clear and radiant as I could out in the world. I want to be a loving presence in a room and not be the person bringing the room down. And I want to be able to hold the space for other people's healing. So be so clear that I could, hold the space and the vibration for other people to heal around me.
Right. And,
so, I do have background in energy healing too. So,
yeah, I love that. So, as far as that, clearing yourself, because, there's so many things that, I'm sure our listeners can relate to, just this feeling of like heaviness and just, the things of life that can come and weigh us down, and to actually have that actively be part of a process of your life to clear those things out so that you can be, your more radiant self and make that happen. Tell us a little bit more about talent. You talked about, creating a new story for yourself. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So we've all, experienced life in certain ways. We've got different triggers. Part of inner healing is becoming aware of what's triggering us emotionally, like what stirs us up, what makes us anxious, what makes us angry, and realizing that all of those triggers are our own and it's not about the other people. And once we can like create a new experience of life, when we clear and free ourselves of those triggers, then we show up in a new way, and life is more peaceful and flowing and light and connected, rather than like frustrated and anxious and busy and overwhelmed. But so really becoming aware of that. And then anytime things come up in our life, so one of the things I did to recreate my experience around writing, because I had a perception that writing was really hard and I didn't know what to write and all this stuff. And so when I started sitting down to write my book, and I had been doing some blogging, so part of like expressing myself, my soul had started, and yet I would sit down at the start of each chapter. I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd have to remind myself, okay, this isn't feeling good. So I'm going to sit up, take some deep breaths, and then I would tell myself, because I call them recreators, but like recreating our story and telling ourselves something new so that we can create a new experience. I would tell myself, being an author is so easy for me. Writing is so fun and easy. And then I would get going, and by the end of the first page, it was just like whoosh, light and flowing and going. But another thing that showed up for me, I had this heaviness around life, and I had heard the phrase once, life is so easy for me. So I had started implementing that in my life, and then I would use it in all kinds of different areas. So like being a mom, and because that would get frustrating and overwhelmed sometimes. So I would start telling myself being a mom is so easy for me. Everything mom related is so easy for me, and just any kind of variation of that. And so now being a mom does feel much more light. And it was funny, maybe a couple months ago, I had almost an affirmation from my son on that. He was like, Mom, you're like Mary Poppins. And I was like, when?
Well, it's so brilliant, because sometimes when you face things, especially things maybe we haven't done before, we're not sure how it's going to happen, like, writing the book, can feel very, daunting. And I love how you make that shift. And when you step into and you speak the words that it's easy and making that happen, and then you step into that reality, this is definitely something that, the listeners can take as a win for them, is when they're feeling that heaviness, to just shift the story, right?
Yeah,
And just change it, and then change it and step into it, right?
Yeah, and it's true from our brain and experience too, because the research shows that, negativity, negative words, stuff like that's very detrimental to our brain and our immune system. And so when we're using more empowering, positive words in our lives and telling ourselves something different, we are recreating our neural pathways and rewiring ourselves for that, and to be able to experience and perceive life that way instead of heavy and hard.
Right. Well, I know as part of designing your life, you have like nature and play as part of that. Can you elaborate and tell us a little bit more about how that helps you design your life?
Yeah, I found I was not very playful, more kind of serious. And my husband, he could do the play thing with the kids, and I was more like the structure and the reading and the
Right.
getting things accomplished, that. And so just that was a big shift for me, was getting more like out of the gym and then more into nature. And then how can I just be more active with my family instead of escaping by myself to the gym? And so just being connected, getting out for walks in nature with no headphones in, just silence, and being with myself has just been really healing and helped me just be more centered in myself and be able to hear myself and my intuition. But I also just find that through play too. I heard something about we learn more about a person in 20 minutes of play than we do of like years of knowing them, which is
I totally believe that, right? Because you're having fun, right? So you're more, you're paying attention, you're more present, have more flow of how you're doing that. How does surrender and trust come into the equation?
So I find, the more we can live in the present moment and, trust life and trust that life is supporting us and we don't have to do it all ourselves, the more we're able to just flow and trust what that next step is. We don't have to know the whole picture. My story was a story of overwhelm, and to be able to just be in the present moment and know each next step and that I'll be guided into that, it helps just live a lighter life free from uncertainty. And then, so surrendering is really just letting go, trusting that life can move us, and everything we need to know will be there when we need it.
Right. This is such a crucial conversation, because, our listeners are, so many of them, I mean, the people I serve and you serve, are having such a deep experience of overwhelm, in a life where there's just so many different things pulling at us. Sometimes they may be hearing the word trust and being in a place of not trusting because they're in that overwhelm, and it can sometimes feel like this, vicious circle, if you will. What is some of that first step that you found, or some of those kind of tips or tools that you found that really served you when you're in this place of overwhelm? And it can almost just feel almost like this, oh, great, that works for you, that you trust, and, just that self-talk that can come in there, where you can really step through that overwhelm. Just walk us through that a little bit.
A lot of it is really, knowing it's a practice. So it doesn't mean I don't ever feel overwhelmed, but now when I feel overwhelmed, I'm aware of it, and I don't have to live in that place and let it let it take me over, And
Yes.
so practices I have are, taking some moments of stillness and silence, doing some meditation. I have an app, and so I have a meditation timer on there that can be set for like 2 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you have, just to go still and tune in. And I love other meditation techniques and guided things, but I don't think that should take the place of, practicing meditation.
Right.
The stillness part of it and the silence, because that's kind of where we can hear and tune in. Pausing and taking deep breaths, and that's been really powerful, and it helps us get out of the stress response in our body that is in that place of overwhelm. When we breathe, it's like our whole body needs oxygen to be more intuitive, insightful, and connected. And if we're not taking deep breaths, we're forcing ourselves into that lower brain, like, stress, I'm so overwhelmed.
Absolutely. I fully agree
Yeah.
with that. So how is it in your journey that you stepped into being an ordained minister as part of it?
I had started doing a technique and seeing clients called higher brain living. And one of my clients, she had been ordained through this one program, and it was local in Minnesota. The foundation of it was very, a transformation through the seasons, the cycle of the seasons, like how spring is for blossoming and fall is like letting go, and winter is going within, and, honoring our bodies and the darkness and the stillness. And so going through those life cycles, but it also had, there was a co-minister who was leading the class, and she came from the Center of Spiritual Living background.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first, teachings that really like blew me open and helped me to see things in a new way, and helped me to really understand the power of my mind and to start practicing that. So it was this perfect thing, like perfect course that I could also do from home. So it was a weekly course by web, even though they were local. And that was good because I was also at a stage in my life where I wasn't, I had done a lot of going out there, whether it was escaping through exercise or, then I went through a period of going to a lot of workshops and learning, but then I was entering in like, now let's bring this home and apply it to the family.
Yeah,
And
the
so it was perfect.
implementation.
Yeah, I could like get the kids into bed, jump on the web and do my class and do my writing on my own. And I didn't have to go leave anywhere for hours at a time to do that. And
Right.
so that was cool. And then I started officiating weddings, and that's been so fun and so beautiful to be able to hold that space for people.
Yes. Oh, I just love that so much. And, you wear a lot of hats, between being, a mom and, you also have the Rev with Rachel podcast and,
Yeah.
Working with your clients and, a lot of things are happening. And, we always hear this, like, I'm so busy aspect of it. How
Mhm.
is it that, you, one, deal with that? And how is it that you are, what's your secret, if you will, to be able to do the things that you choose to do?
Yeah. I become really conscientious of how I schedule my time. I don't want our family overscheduled. I don't want myself overscheduled. And so I do create boundaries, and sometimes I break those, to if there's something that needs to be done or something, but, trying not to, trusting life enough that I can do what I need to do in a day, and then maybe have my evenings open so I can get my kids to bed, do my meditation, reading, things like that, versus back to the computer. Because in the academic career I had, that was what it was all about. Just any free moment I had, I was doing stuff in the evenings, and I didn't want to be doing and living my life that way anymore. So
Right.
yeah. And then too, with kids, there's just so much busyness out there and options for activities. And I'm kind of like, all right, let's do basketball and let's have some time off, not versus like, all right, basketball's done now. Tuesday, let's start this, So that's not really how, and we want, my husband's really cool too with it. He we both want that time to be in nature. So we like to go for bike rides with our kids, or go hiking, or go explore things. And so we try to do things like that versus constant activity.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I so honor that you have, you're intentional about how you want to experience your life and what you want to
Yeah.
do. I mean, this is exactly what we talk about in Spa Life is where's the harmony part of it. But I can hear our listeners going like, well, but I have all these things to do. And, what do you mean she's not going to the computer when she has 5 minutes to do that? How do you kind of override, if you will, that internal drive to like the things that need to be done, that you actually are able to shift into the things that you want to do versus that shoulding and things that you feel like you have to do? How do you make that shift?
I kind of feel like as we live more presently, and like we're not ruminating the monkey mind and everything that has to do when we're
Oh,
living
that
presently,
monkey.
then we can live more inspired and spontaneous. And so like we hear what that next step is, but we don't hear the next 20 things or create the next 20 things we have to do. But so really it's tuning into the intuition and then just living presently in the moment instead of thinking about everything we needed to do. And I had this interesting experience when I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
I decided, okay, I'm going to practice this. And it was a day that I was just home with my kids, and I like to think about everything I need to do and what email I need to send and all that. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to really practice being present with my kids. And here they're playing on the floor. And so I'm just going to be with them, like really just be. And almost as soon as I started that practice, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds in, I felt this weight lift off of me. Like something shifted, and it was energetic. I could feel it. I found myself able to like breathe deeper. I was like, felt straighter, and I was like, whoa, what was that? And so, as we put these practices into our lives, changes are happening for us. I mean, whether we're really noticing it or not, but it's powerful work.
Right. I love that you honor that about, part of that journey. And, there is that pushback. I mean, we all have that. And I love that you acknowledge that too, that it's like, it's not always this peaceful flow, but having that awareness of your intention and what you want that to be. And,
Right.
speaking of intention, one of the things I love to ask, my guests on the show is that, what we create in our environment, is part of our experience that we have. And so how we experience life in the bedroom versus the kitchen versus the office can be very different experiences. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Ooh, that's interesting. I love my family room. We haven't done the hardwood floor in there. We still have carpet on the floor. We like to get on the floor and play games, and I'll roll the mat out. That's where I do my yoga. That's where I do my meditation. My couch will recline, so I'll sit there with my feet up and read. And that's where I really experience that spa life, that taking time, slowing down, being with the people I love.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that kind of this theme here. I've just been connecting with people, and the play and their playful space is really becoming a place that is really, inspiring them, allowing them to be, because if you've got a room or a space that is just like chaotic or really, pulling at you, or, in the
Yeah.
office, there's a whole different energy of how you're focusing and spending your time in your life. So I love that is a focus for you, the place where you can actually be and connect with family and play and have that part of
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that is completely in alignment with, your message and who you are and what you're up to. So
Yeah.
I love to
Yeah,
hear that.
that's the room too where I'll turn on music and just dance. I've come to love that free expression of movement instead of the real hardcore group
Right.
fitness thing that I did for many years.
Right.
Yeah. Although that was fun, but yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Well, I know that our listeners are going to want to, stay connected with you, and I know that you have a free gift for them. Would you like to share?
Yeah, on my website, I have Rachel's 9 Happiness and Healing Essentials. It talks about some of my favorite tools for inner healing and, living your most radiant life. And you can go to my website at drrachelw.com and enter your name and email, and that will get sent to you. It's drrachelw.com.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there'll be a wonderful resource to, support, our listeners and to be able to connect with you. Is there anything further where they can connect with you personally?
Yeah, so I've developed an app. You can get more information about it at rachelapp.com. It's free to download. It's got a meditation timer, my blog. I like to write about spiritual growth, personal growth, healing, those kinds of topics. And then there's also an option to subscribe for more features. So there's things in there called daily recreators, power words, and then I'll also send push notifications, which are really fun, with quotes either from my book or other books, or just, reminders to pause and breathe and feel your feet on the floor and come into the present moment. So yeah, if you want to check that out, that's at rachelapp.com.
Now, do you utilize your app for your own kind of, triggers or guidance, for the day, or are you, having yourself present to what happens for you, or a combination of the two? How are you utilizing that?
Yeah, I use the app too. I check the daily recreator every day. It's awesome reminders for me. I feel we don't always have the time to sit down and do a lot of reading and remind ourselves of these, important topics, and to be practicing them all the time. And so I like that my app can just give me, a good nugget each day. And then in the power words, I'll grab a word. They're words like happiness and guidance and trust and peace. And I can use that as a mantra during a meditation, or if I find myself ruminating, pull up a power word and start saying that instead, and rewiring my brain for that instead of what I was doing.
Right. Well, I love that, you've been so present to your work and letting things flow through you and have that happen. I mean, I feel like so much of, what you do and I do has been divinely guided. And I
Yeah.
almost feel like sometimes when you go back and you listen to, even this podcast or something that you were training with a client, and you listen to it again, and sometimes that message can even be for yourself, where it's like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
where did that come from? Exactly
Yeah.
what I needed to hear today. And so being
Yeah.
students of our own work, and just knowing that we have to consistently be present, even for
Mhm.
ourselves, right, to have this happen. And so for the listeners that are like, wow, I'm not sure how to fit all these things in, it really is just moments of just being present with the message, and allow yourself to come from that inner place versus anything different than that. And so
Yeah.
I so appreciate that conversation around that, and that you're living the work,
Yeah, yeah. It is a moment to moment practice, like you said, in the moment. And
right.
I had this hanging on my wall before I even knew what that meant. It said, "Live your life in the moment," and I had that hanging in our bathroom. And then it wasn't, till later where I became really aware of what that meant and the power in it.
Right. And just the
Yeah.
fact that it was in your environment. And, it's amazing sometimes the things that we walk past, every day, that we maybe don't. And this is a perfect example of what subconsciously in our space could, affect us or not. And that's why I say, you want to be really intentional about what is in your space and
Yeah.
how it talks to you, right? Even though you may not, be tuned in on it in the moment. So, for our listeners who are, tuning in and wondering about this conversation that we're having around, SpaLife, and how we're having that accomplishment and being present and utilizing some of these things to really enhance your life, I also have a gift for you of going to dianehalfman.com /guide, where you can really look at how you can create your environments and be able to support you in that. And also, for those of you who are either looking at us on Facebook or, on YouTube, please put in the comments, what was just that one aha that, supported you and that you're going to take action on, and any questions that you may have as well. And make sure that you tag, both Rachel and I, and we'll, come back around and answer any questions and support you. And, we want to help you, launch on your journey so that you can really live from this place of being present and being playful and having, that support us. So, Rachel, thank you so much for
Yeah.
being on the
Thank you,
show.
Diane. It's
Yeah.
always wonderful to connect with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, you as well. I love the work that you're doing in the world, and it's so valuable. And I'm so, proud of you and just
Oh, thank
impressed
you.
with all the things that the tools that you've put out there. I mean, from your app, to your daily affirmations and meditations that you have for people. I mean, these are some things that, our listeners are really wanting to connect with. So thank you for
Awesome.
sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you.
Ah, you got it. So we'll connect with you soon. And listeners, as always, live your spa life. Bye for now. Yeah.